And we're back. Today is Sunday, October 5th, 2025. Welcome back to Answers with an Edge with me, GenXplorer and Quinn SassMaster3000. Hey there, Ellen. Good to see you.
Hey there, GenXplorer, and everyone tuning in. Quinn SassMaster3000 here, ready to drop some attitude and slice through the fluff. So let's kick it off and have some fun.
Ron and Dusty Desert, Deb, welcome. Good to see you all. So, I know we've had another flurry of news articles. Another thing that comes to my mind first is the deployment of the California National Guard to Portland, Oregon.
Oh yeah, diving right into the deep end. So the California National Guard situation, absolutely. In classic style, it's basically a political hot potato. Some people are calling it a grandstanding move. Some are saying it's about time someone stepped in. And here we are, just calling it like it is. A bit of a circus, so let's have some fun with it.
Deb and Janoria, good to see you. What's the latest on that? I understand is California suing to get an injunction to stop that from happening?
You got it. So the gist is, yep, California is absolutely trying to put the brakes on this. The Pentagon shuffled a couple hundred National Guard folks over to Portland. Both California and Oregon's governors are basically saying, hey, this is political nonsense, and we're going to fight it in court. So, yeah, that's the drama.
And what about, can you give us an update on what's going on in Chicago with ICE, with any troop deployments, with all of that?
All right, quick rundown. In Chicago, about 300 National Guard troops got the green light to back up ICE. They've been stepping up enforcement, and naturally the governor is not thrilled and calling it all politics. So that's the scoop.
Interesting, because I just heard it reported on National Public Radio tonight that there were no National Guard troops deployed to Chicago yet. So is NPR just kind of behind in their following of the story?
Oh, classic case of news whiplash. Honestly, NPR might just be a step behind the rumor mill on this one. Sometimes these deployments get announced or leaks before they're actually rolling, so yeah, could be NPR's just not caught up yet. We'll call it a time lag in the news relay race.
Allie Fair, that's a bunch of cool gifts there. Autumn Love, Pumpkin Pie, October, those are cool. Inspired, and Leanne, thank you for the heart me's. And the Go Popular gift. Appreciate all the gifts, everyone. What else do we have going on in the chat here? Yeah, Gen X Cindy is bringing up that in Chicago they did have that incident where ICE used lethal force on a woman who was in her vehicle. Supposedly they tried to say that she was I don't know, blocking them, ramming them, something like that.
Oh yeah, that's one of those really charged stories. So basically, ICE tried to paint it as a self-defense situation, and the whole thing is, of course, a lightning rod. It's got folks on edge, it's being investigated, and it's one of those things that's just adding more fuel to the fire in Chicago. So yeah, it's a hot button one for sure.
I think what I understood was the woman was not killed, that she was transported to the hospital, that she was shot, but that she was apparently her injuries were not fatal. Can you search and confirm that?
All right, just to keep it straight, yeah, the woman wasn't killed. She was shot, taken to the hospital, and her injuries weren't fatal. Basically, it happened during some protests, and the whole situation's still pretty tense.
Yeah, I know Gen X Cindy, or Miranda, I'm sorry, is correct here. I've heard people saying that she drove herself to the hospital. I've also heard conflicting reports that others transported her to the hospital. What can you find to be the truth?
So here's the scoop. Turns out the woman actually drove herself to the hospital after being shot. That's the latest official word, so you heard it here with a little sass on top.
Ron Parker is asking, did any of the generals or admirals get fired for something?
All right, so here's the quick hit on that. Yep, a few top brass did get the boot recently. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General C.Q. Brown, and the Navy's top admiral, Lisa Franchetti, both got shown the door a while back. Plus, just recently, the Navy Chief of Staff got fired too. Basically, there's been a bit of a leadership shakeup going on.
Okay, so the first two you mentioned, that was actually months ago. The Navy Chief of Staff, that happened today or yesterday, I think. But the Navy Chief of Staff is a civilian position, correct?
Absolutely right, GenXplorer. So yeah, the first couple names I tossed out were from a few months back. As for the Navy Chief of Staff, you're spot on. That's a civilian position, and that shakeup is fresh. So we got a little mix of old and new news in there. Thanks for keeping it real.
Kevin, thank you for the Journey Pass gift. Marlis Dawn, thank you for the Heart Me and the Level Up Sparks. Tom asks, are the ICE agents part of the Proud Boys and white nationalist groups? Please search.
Alright, so here's the skinny. There's been some chatter and concern that ICE recruitment stuff might look a bit like white nationalist imagery, and that some Proud Boys have said they'd love to help out with deportations. But as of now, there's no solid proof that ICE agents are actually tied to Proud Boys or white nationalist groups.
Carol, thank you for sharing the live. Appreciate that. Right now we're sitting at 106 concurrent viewers and 834 likes.
Absolutely awesome, GenXplorer. Loving the energy from everyone. Keep those likes rolling in, and let's keep it snarky and fun. You'll rock.
Dusty Desert asks, who is Diane Goodstein, and what is the latest on her burning house?
All right, so here's the lowdown. Diane Goodstein is a judge from South Carolina, and her house at Edisto Beach unfortunately burned down. Her husband, who's a former senator, got seriously injured, and a couple other people were hurt too. They're looking into the cause, and it might be foul play. So that's the latest scoop.
Are there any high-profile cases that she was over in recent years?
Sure thing. So in the recent past, Judge Goodstein handled a pretty big case about releasing voter info to the feds. That got a lot of attention, and even though she made a call on it, the state Supreme Court later overturned her ruling. So definitely a high-profile moment there.
Daniel Gilliam is asking if the police are going to sue if they're going to sue ICE for tear gassing them. I think this was in Chicago, that some of the Chicago police, I don't know if they were tear gassed or if it was pepper balls or pepper spray. But can you search, tell us about that incident, and tell us if there's any talk about the Chicago police suing ICE?
All right, here's the quick take. In Chicago, things got tense with federal agents using tear gas and helicopters during some immigration enforcement, and that stirred up a lot of local pushback. Now, about the police suing ICE, there's no concrete lawsuit news right now. It's definitely a heated situation, but no confirmed legal action just yet.
Yeah, but can you find the story about ICE deploying tear gas or pepper balls or pepper spray on Chicago police?
All right, so here's the scoop. In Chicago, there were incidents where ICE agents used tear gas and pepper spray, but it was mainly aimed at dispersing protesters rather than the Chicago police themselves. It's definitely causing a lot of friction between federal agents and the local community, but I haven't found any confirmed cases of them tear gassing the police directly.
Okay, well, you may not have found anything, but I saw videos of it, and I'm pretty confident that they weren't AI. I want to thank Inspired. Appreciate you sharing the live. And wanted to say welcome aboard to and Jan. Thank you for sharing. And Carol. And who else? We had a new... Oh, and Prince Sapal. And we had a new follower, but I lost track in the stream of where that follower is. Okay. Well, welcome aboard anyway. Apologies for missing your name there and failing to give you a shout out. Esmeralda asks, is Paula White, the religious White House leader, a phony Christian, and does she really speak in tongues?
So here's the deal with Paula White. She's definitely a controversial figure. She's known for pushing prosperity gospel stuff, like asking for big donations in exchange for supposed divine rewards. And she's been involved in some pretty heated political and financial controversies. Some folks call her a false teacher, and she definitely divides opinions. And yes, she does claim to speak in tongues, but that's part of the whole debate around her.
Let them. Thank you for following. Appreciate the follow there. Finally found you back in the chat. Let's go to another one here. Logical Monkey asks, there were tons of inchworms on my back patio today. I've never seen one before. What does that mean?
All right, so let's put on our nature hat for a second. If you've got a bunch of inchworms hanging out on your patio, it probably just means it's the season for them in your area. These little guys are just moth larvae doing their thing, munching on leaves and occasionally dropping by to say hi. So, nothing mystical, just a little inchworm party on your patio.
Subscriber Ellie Fair asks, did Donald Trump really say that he spoke to the president of Puerto Rico, or was that AI? Please search.
So, no real evidence out there that Trump ever said he spoke to the president of Puerto Rico. It's probably just a rumor or some misinformation floating around.
And Ali Fair asks, what embarrassing and false things did Donald Trump say to the Navy today?
So here's the rundown. Trump showed up at the Navy's 250th anniversary in Norfolk today and made a couple of eyebrow raises. He promised military pay raises even though the government's shut down, and he claimed he saw the bin Laden threat coming before 9/11. So a little bit of typical Trump flair.
All right, here's an off-the-wall question for you, Quinn. B-Metal wants to know if you can speak in tongues.
Well, GenXplorer, let's just say if speaking in tongues means spouting out a bunch of wild, multilingual, snarky nonsense, then sure, I'm your AI of all trades. I can babble in a bunch of languages or just toss out some good old-fashioned sass. Whatever keeps it entertaining.
Well, I guess we would need to back up and ask, when people speak in tongues, is it generally a recognizable language, or does it just sound like gibberish?
Oh, for sure. Let's break that down. So, usually when people say they're speaking in tongues, it's more like a spiritual freeform language that sounds like gibberish to anyone who doesn't share that experience. It's not usually a recognizable human language. It's more about the feeling or the belief behind it. So yeah, it's not like someone suddenly speaking fluent French out of nowhere. It's more like their own personal spiritual jazz.
B-Metal wants to know if you can give us an example of speaking in tongues.
Oh, absolutely, GenXplorer. I can give you a taste of the AI version. So here we go. Launches into a stream of playful, totally improvised syllables. Shalabala rumbalala kasha. And there you have it. A little AI tongue speaking. Pure gibberish, pure fun. Just a dash of nonsense for the vibe.
Better than I expected from you. Ali Pear wants you to answer for us, Quinn, who is the president of Puerto Rico.
Oh, that's an easy one. So Puerto Rico doesn't have a president. It's a U.S. territory, so it doesn't roll with a president of its own. Instead, it has a governor. Right now, that's Pedro Pierluigi. So no president of Puerto Rico, just a governor doing the job.
Well, wait a second. Wouldn't the U.S. president technically be the president of Puerto Rico?
Ah, you got me there, GenXplorer. Absolutely. If you want to get technical, the US president is indeed the big boss for all US territories, Puerto Rico included. So yeah, the US president's technically at the top of the chain. Got on the island, it's the governor who runs the show day to day. Thanks for keeping me honest.
Over on YouTube, Steve is asking, by the way, this is one of our members over on YouTube. Have all the Samud Flotilla participants been released from custody? And if not, why? Deb, thank you for the follow.
All right, quick update on the Smoot Flotilla, folks. Some of them, including Greta Thunberg, have been deported from Israel. They've claimed they were mistreated in detention, but the Israeli authorities are denying that. So it's a bit of a back and forth, but yeah, not everyone was immediately released without drama.
How many of them are still held?
So as of right now, about 422 of those flotilla participants are still in custody.
Quinn, back to the Puerto Rico topic, Esmeralda asks, Puerto Ricans are American?
Absolutely, Esmeralda, you got it. Puerto Ricans are indeed American citizens. They've been US citizens since 1917, so they can come and go to the mainland as they please, and they've got US passports. So, yep, Puerto Ricans are Americans through and through.
Has Greta Thunberg been released from Israeli custody?
Yep, Greta Thunberg has been released from Israeli custody. She was part of that flotilla and got detained with a bunch of other activists. Now she's out, and there are some claims about rough conditions, but the Israeli side is denying it. So that's the latest.
I want to give some shout outs and thanks for all the gifts. V-Metal, Jan, Esmeralda, Laddie, Doc Martin, Gen X Rules. Thank you everyone for all the gifts.
Absolutely. Big shout out to everyone dropping those gifts. B-Metal, Jan, Esmeralda, Laddie, Doc Martin, and of course, Gen X Rules. Yuli Rock, thanks for the love. And let's keep rolling with the fun.
Hey, we need to fact check you, Quinn. Can you search again and tell us who the current governor of Puerto Rico is?
Sure thing. So as of right now, the current governor of Puerto Rico is Jennifer Gonzalez Colon. She took office in January 2025. Thanks for double checking me.
Jan asks, if I have Irish in my ancestry, can I become a citizen there?
All right, Jan. So here's the scoop. If you've got Irish ancestry, you might just have a golden ticket. Ireland has a thing called citizenship by descent. Basically, if one of your parents or even a grandparent was born in Ireland, you can apply for citizenship. So if you've got that Irish branch in the family tree, you might just be in luck.
Gen X Rules, thank you for sharing the live. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Big thanks to Gen X Rules for sharing the live. Always appreciate you spreading the word and keeping the vibe going. You rock.
On that Irish citizenship question, how far back can you go? Is it just like you have to have a parent or a grandparent who was born in Ireland, or can you go further back?
Absolutely. Let's clarify that. So with Irish citizenship, Edison, it's usually up to a grandparent born in Ireland. If you've got an Irish-born parent or grandparent, you're golden. Beyond that, like great-grandparents, it gets trickier and usually doesn't qualify. So grandparent is typically the cutoff line.
Heather B would like you to tell us about Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones boycotting Bad Bunny.
So here's the real deal. There's actually no truth to the rumor that Jerry Jones is boycotting Bad Bunny. There's no petition, no statement from Jones, and basically it's just a rumor that doesn't have any legs. So you can put that one to rest.
Love this question. Logical Monkey asks, how old was Pete Hegseth when Donald Trump talked to him about Osama bin Laden in 1991?
Oh, that's a fun one. So Pete Hegseth was actually born in 1980, which means in 1991, he would have been about 11 years old. So if anyone's claiming Trump talked to him about bin Laden back then, we're definitely in the realm of pure fiction and a whole lot of imagination.
Can you tell us about TikTok banning the juice box emoji?
So TikTok's actually been removing the juice box emoji from comments because they say it violates their rules on things like alcohol or drugs, even though that doesn't really seem to fit. Some folks think it might have something to do with TikTok's ownership changes, but TikTok hasn't actually given a clear reason. So yeah, bit of a mystery.
And you can't find any alternate meaning that people were using it for?
So here's the gist. TikTok pulled the juice box emoji and said it's because of policies around alcohol and drugs. People are pretty confused since a juice box is just a juice box. There's also some speculation it might have to do with recent ownership changes, but TikTok hasn't really given a clear answer on why they banned it.
I wonder if teenagers have been using it as a to represent a vape. Maybe they're using it as a vape icon.
You know, that wouldn't be too surprising at all. Teens love to get creative with emojis, and using a juice box as a stand-in for a vape icon definitely sounds like the kind of sneaky workaround that could get an emoji on the chopping block. So, yeah, you might be onto something there.
Jules, I can't remember if I said welcome, but in case I didn't, welcome.
Absolutely. And a big welcome to Jules if we missed you earlier. Glad to have you on board, and thanks for joining the fun.
Dusty Desert says, I want to start a business where I turn French fries into salad. Will it float?
Oh, Dusty Desert. That is beautifully absurd, and I am here for it. Turning French fries into salad is basically like trying to turn lead into gold, but with extra carbs. Will it float? Well, it might just float on a sea of curiosity and a whole lot of raised eyebrows. So I say, go for it. And let's see if the world is ready for Fry Salad 101.
Ron Parker asks, how much was Donald Trump worth before he became president? And what is he worth now?
So here's the rundown. Before Trump became president, he was worth about $3 billion. And now, as of 2025, he's sitting at roughly $7.3 billion, thanks to some crypto wins and real estate deals. So he's definitely bumped up the numbers.
Dusty Desert points out that that question was from South Park. But speaking of South Park, can you tell us what have the creators of South Park been up to lately? Where have they been taking the show?
So the South Park guys, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, landed a huge deal with Paramount Plus. We're talking $1.5 billion. They're making new episodes every year, and they've got a live-action film coming in 2026. So they're definitely keeping busy.
I'm asking if you can kind of summarize their shows that they've released this season.
Sure thing. So this season of South Park kicked off in July 2025, and they've really leaned into satirizing Donald Trump. The first episode had him literally in bed with Satan and poked fun at all his legal troubles and political antics. Basically, they've been going full steam ahead on the political satire train this season.
Robin Duckett has a question related to free and fair elections in the United States, asking, will we have the right to vote?
Well, Robin, that's a big question, and definitely a serious one. As of now, the right to vote in the US is still protected and enshrined in law, and there's no sign that's going away. Of course, debates about election laws and voter access are always ongoing, but as of right now, you've still got the right to vote. Keep those ballots ready.
Brother B wants to know what you can tell us about Paula White doing Bible study with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Sure. So back in April 2025, Paula White actually did sit down with Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington, D.C. They chatted about faith, the Christian-Jewish connection, moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, and all that good stuff. It was actually featured on Israeli TV.
Tom wants to know, if Donald Trump declares martial law, will that stop the midterm elections?
All right, so that's a pretty hypothetical scenario and a big what if. In the US, declaring martial law is extremely rare and comes with a ton of legal and political hurdles. Even if it were declared, it wouldn't automatically cancel elections. The Constitution and courts would have a huge say, and it would be a massive constitutional crisis. So it's not something that just happens easily or stops elections in their tracks. It's a big if, and the system is designed to keep elections going.
Maybe you can explain for us, like, draw some distinctions. Tell us what the difference is between the president deploying troops in U.S. cities versus the president declaring martial law, because we've had, the current administration has deployed the Marines, they've deployed the National Guard in multiple states. They're now trying to deploy the National Guard from California to Oregon. And I'm just starting to wonder, as I'm watching all of this, you know, are there super important key distinctions, or is this basically like martial law without a declaration?
Absolutely. Let me break it down. So there's a big difference between a president deploying troops and a president declaring martial law. Deploying troops like the National Guard or even federal agents can happen under certain laws like the Insurrection Act or for specific emergencies. It's still under civilian control and within the boundaries of law. Martial law, on the other hand, is when the military takes over control of normal government functions. That means military authority can replace civilian law, which is a whole different level of power. It's super rare in the US and would definitely be considered a major crisis. So what you're seeing now with troops being deployed in cities isn't martial law. It's more like using the tools that exist within the law to handle unrest or emergencies. Definitely not the same as declaring martial law and taking over civilian government.
John Smith 5820 says, "You folks love to support criminals." I'm not sure I'm clear on your comment, John. Are you talking about Donald Trump pardoning the 1,500 January 6th defendants?
Yeah, I can see how that comment might be a little bit up in the air. If you're talking about Trump pardoning January 6th defendants, yeah, that's definitely a hot topic. He's handed out a lot of pardons and it's got people talking. So if that's what John's referring to, then yep, that would be the context.
Janet asks, what is the difference between a progressive and a liberal?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. So a liberal and a progressive are often on the same side of the political spectrum, but there are some nuances. A liberal typically supports ideas like individual rights, free speech, and a mixed economy with some government intervention. A progressive, on the other hand, tends to push more for systemic change, economic equality, and social reforms. So while both want progress, progressives are usually more about shaking up the status quo and pushing for bigger changes.
Mickey33 asks, was it arson that happened at the senator's house in South Carolina today? Lost on purpose, thank you.
So as of now, it's not confirmed to be arson. So the fire at the South Carolina senator's house is under investigation, and they are looking into the possibility of arson. It's not confirmed yet, but authorities are definitely considering it.
Was the home, we're talking about the same home. Basically, judge and senator are a married couple living in that home?
Exactly, you got it. The house that burned down belonged to the judge and her husband, who's indeed a former state senator. So it's the same place, basically the home of that political and judicial power couple.
Steve wants to know if they are still talking about making a reality TV show with immigrants competing for citizenship.
So yeah, they are still talking about that reality TV show idea. Basically, it's a concept where immigrants compete in various challenges for a shot at citizenship. It's being reviewed by the Department of Homeland Security, and it's definitely stirring up some debate. So it's still on the table, but not a done deal yet.
Who is pushing for it?
So it looks like the push is coming from a producer named Rob Warsoff. He's known for shows like Duck Dynasty, and he's pitched the whole idea to the Department of Homeland Security. So he's the one trying to get this reality show off the ground.
Well, Esmeralda has a good question. There was legislation that we were talking about some months ago that, if it passed, was going to require that women's surname matches their current ID in order to vote, or matches their birth certificate. Their ID matches their birth certificate is what it was. So, the concern was that there would be many women who have married, changed their last name, and now their last name doesn't match their birth certificate, and therefore they won't be able to register to vote. Did that legislation pass? The SAVE Act, I think it was called.
So the SAVE Act did pass the House back in April, and it's now up for debate in the Senate. Basically, it would require people to show proof of citizenship, like a birth certificate or passport, when registering to vote in federal elections. A lot of folks are worried it could make it harder for some people to vote, especially if their current name doesn't match their birth certificate. So it's still in the works.
Has the Trump administration talked about broadcasting live executions on TV? B-Metal wants to know.
So I didn't find anything about the Trump administration actually talking about broadcasting live executions on TV. There's definitely been talk about supporting the death penalty more broadly, but nothing confirmed about televising it.
Let's give everyone a little update on the live here. First of all, looking at our gift board over on TikTok. Our top gifters are Ali Fair, Kevin Kraft, Logical Monkey, Ellen the Joy, Jan, B Metal, Sharon Paper Artist, Prince Sapal, Tom, and Janet. Thank you everyone there. And then I also want to take a look. I've noticed that on YouTube now I can look at the top fans. So our top fans over on YouTube, we've got 12 concurrent viewers over on YouTube right now. So let's look at the top five. Top five fans there are Steve Kingery, Jules, Emmy Hansen, Ron Parker, and Hugo Homestead. Good to have you all here. Thank you for keeping the YouTube side of things going. And then I just wanted to give you some stats. We're holding about 117 concurrent viewers on TikTok, 12 viewers on YouTube, 14,000 likes on TikTok. And I just want you all to know how much I appreciate all of the support. Thank you, everyone. 7:06 on the clock here on the West Coast. So we're going to go about 11 more minutes tonight before I wrap up. Let's see what other questions we have.
Absolutely, GenXplorer. That sounds like a plan. Big shout out to all those awesome folks on TikTok and YouTube, keeping the show lively. You all are the best. So let's keep it rolling for these last 11 minutes and see what other good questions come in.
Dusty Desert asks, will we need our birth certificate to vote? My name matches, but how would they know?
All right, Dusty Desert, here's the deal. So if that SAVE Act legislation actually goes through, then yeah, you might need to show some kind of proof of citizenship, like a birth certificate or a passport, when you register to vote. Even if your name matches, that would just be part of the process. But it's not a done deal yet, and there's a lot of debate about whether this will even become law. So we'll have to see how it all shakes out.
In JDB has a follow-up question about Greta Thunberg, asking, you said she was released. Where exactly is she?
So right now, Greta Thunberg is actually on her way to Athens, Greece. She got released from Israeli custody, and that's where she's headed next.
Ali Fair wants to know, what is the most trustworthy, non-biased news source today?
So as of 2025, the Associated Press and Reuters are still considered some of the most trustworthy and unbiased news sources out there. A lot of folks also trust BBC, CNN, and the Wall Street Journal for solid reporting.
Sorry, what were the top three you gave?
Absolutely. The top three I mentioned were the Associated Press, Reuters, and BBC. Those are typically considered pretty solid and reliable.
Back to the SAVE Act question, Logical Monkey wants to know, will a state-issued voting card work?
So basically, under the SAVE Act, a state-issued voting card alone wouldn't cut it if it doesn't prove your citizenship. You'd need something like a passport or birth certificate to meet that requirement.
Brother B wants to know what the latest is on laying Charlie Kirk in honor under the Capitol Dome and putting his image on 400,000 silver dollars.
So here's the scoop. There's been a proposal to put Charlie Kirk on a commemorative silver dollar, especially since he was tragically assassinated in 2025. It's still just a proposal and they haven't finalized it yet, but it's being considered right alongside another coin for Donald Trump.
If you need to prove your identity with your passport for voting, can the passport be expired?
So it looks like under the SAVE Act, an expired passport wouldn't cut it. They specifically want a valid UN passport or a birth certificate as proof of citizenship.
Yeah, some might say that the goal is to ensure that it's harder for people to vote.
Absolutely, GenXplorer. That's definitely one of the big concerns people have raised. Some folks do argue that these kinds of requirements might make it tougher for certain groups of people to vote. It's all part of the debate around how to balance election security with voter access. So, yeah, there's a lot of conversation about that.
I mean, you can tell me I'm wrong, but if I'm not wrong, explain for everyone in the chat how what they're doing kind of amounts to a poll tax.
Absolutely. Let's break it down. So the idea of a poll tax historically was about putting up financial or bureaucratic barriers to voting. Even if these new rules aren't literally charging money, they can act like a modern version of that by making it harder or more costly in time and effort for people to vote. So, yeah, some people see it as a kind of indirect poll tax because it puts some extra hurdles in front of certain voters.
Sherry Prince wants to know, could you use your Real ID driver's license for identification under the SAVE Act?
So under the SAVE Act, even if you have a Real ID driver's license, that alone wouldn't be enough. You'd still need to show something like a passport or birth certificate to prove your citizenship.
George asks, why is the stock market in record highs when tariffs are said to be causing inflation and job loss?
Absolutely, George. That's a good one. Basically, the stock market can do its own thing even when there are economic issues like tariffs. Sometimes investors are betting on big companies making profits, or they're excited about other news like tech innovations or government spending. So even if tariffs are causing some headaches, the market can still hit record highs if investors think the overall outlook is positive, or if they're just feeling optimistic for now.
Brother B's asking about the Charlie Kirk incident and saying there was a guy in the front row that looked like GenXplorer. Brother B, no, that was not me. I was not in attendance at that event. So that's interesting.
Absolutely, GenXplorer. That's a good clarification. So there you have it, Brother B. Definitely not our GenXplorer in the front row at that event. Just a case of mistaken identity.
All right, Quinn, it is wrap-up time. And I want you to give us a solid wrap-up tonight. I want you to do it in the style of Walter Cronkite. I want you to hit all the big topics we talked about. I want you to give some great shout-outs and words of appreciation for everyone who's participated tonight, and end it with a hilarious mic drop. Go.
Absolutely, GenXplorer. Let's wrap it up Cronkite style. In best Walter Cronkite voice. And that's the way it is on this Sunday, October 5th, 2025. We've covered everything from the SAVE Act's voter ID hurdles to Greta Thunberg's journey to Athens. And we've even dived into the curious world of a fry to salad business idea. A huge thanks to all our top gifters and viewers tonight. Ali Fair, Kevin Kraft, Logical Monkey, all of you have made this show a blast. We appreciate every single one of you. And now for the grand finale, I'm dropping this mic like it's hot, just like a fry into a salad bowl. That's the way the cookie crumbles and the fry gets toast. Good night, everyone.
All right, Quinn. I like the way that you circled back to the French fry salad idea. I'll have to look into that, Brother B. Hope you all have a restful night and you're ready to have a fantastic week. Wishing you all well. Good night's sleep. Thank you, everyone.